lead us in a word of prayer. To raise up your hand and then you pray for us. Any volunteer school? Okay. Act High School, Kakuto. Can you get for us one child to lead us in a word of prayer? Or another school that wants to lead us in a word of prayer? Act High School. Okay, you can pray for us, Act High School. Okay. Our loving Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for bringing us here. I will ask you that whatever we are going to discuss in this seminar and during this facilitation, we may be able to utilize it very well when the right time comes. So we would like to welcome all the schools that are joining in now. Thank you so much for joining. We'd like to thank all the teachers and the school administrators who have provided the resources to have the children here. We are happy to have you, and we shall discuss up to around 6 p.m. today. But for those who may have some questions, you can have the questions in the chat. The facilitator will be able to respond to them. At this point, allow me to welcome our facilitator, Teacher Okello, to start off the discussion. Teacher Okello, you are most welcome.
Thank you so much, Teacher Stephen. My name is Teacher Okello. I am the teacher of history and geography.
Teacher Okello, your volume looks to be a bit low.
Is it better then?
Okay, better, but let me first remove this one here. Let me first see. Can we first disconnect this one with Teacher Okello? That device? Okay. Okay, Teacher Okello, you can continue. Teacher Okello, you can continue.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
It's okay now. It is very okay.
Okay. Now this should be. Okay, can you hear me there? I hope you can hear me.
Very clear, Teacher Okello.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me first go to the class. I asked people what they expect from this session today, and someone is saying we expect how to introduce and write the essay, expect question approach. Expectation approaches. Someone is saying we expect a lot. A lot is not clear. When you say a lot, it is not clear. Anyway, let us start. So today we are going to generally go through the preparation of doing our mocks. I know you guys, some of you could have started doing some of the mock sets already done, or you are about to start doing some of the sets of mocks. So I expect you people to be very attentive, and of course also to be very inquisitive about the questions that is on. So I'm going to take a general overview of a paper. By this time, I expect that most schools have finished the syllabus, or they are about to finish. Most of you should be going towards the end of the syllabus by this time. So to begin with, we are going to start with a few things you must know as you prepare for your final exams. There are some few things that you should know as a student who is about to sit his or her. So here are some of the few things you need to know. We need to know that there are many questions, many types of questions that are sent in the paper. Some of the questions are direct, some of the questions are not very direct, but all these questions carry equal what? Carry equal marks. And therefore now that takes us to choice. How do you choose your questions? You are going to see what you need to do if you want to make the best choice during the exam or in an exam environment. So here we have many types of questions, and one of the types of questions that come in exam is the direct question. Very direct, very simple, in very simple one. In a very simple one. For example, account for the outbreak of the French Revolution. Account for the outbreak of the French Revolution is a direct question. Is a direct question that comes. So if they ask you, for example, account for the outbreak of the revolution, account for the rise of Napoleon, account for the outbreak of World War I, account for the outbreak of account for the outbreak of the Russian Revolution, or anything that is in that line. They are simply asking a very direct question. So people need to know that in a paper, you're going to get such questions, a direct question. And the demands of a direct question, people need to know. Maybe if I may ask, if they ask you a question like that, account for the outbreak of the French Revolution. I know people have encountered that question. We all know that that question requires you to give a brief introduction of what the revolution is. And of course, after that, you write the body of the essay, which is now giving the reasons why the revolution actually broke out. And then, of course, you give a conclusion. A conclusion. And that question is so easy, so it is the kind of question that I would advise everybody to verify those direct questions. Very direct and simple questions.
Thank you, internet. Uh, Kindly hold on a bit.
Hello, people. Good afternoon once again. But something technical slightly, we are working on it. So I was telling you people, there are many types of questions. I talked of the direct questions. I talked of the direct questions like account for the rise of Napoleon, account for the outbreak of the French Revolution, account for the outbreak of maybe the Russian Revolution, those things. Those are very direct questions. Then you have those other questions that are direct, but not, there are two types. I mean, question, for example, the causes of the French Revolution, the causes and effects of the French Revolution. That question two, you deal with the causes, finish, then you deal with the effects on the other hand. Any type of question is challenging that question because one, it's in two parts. And two, it is more demanding in terms of points. You need more points, and sometimes it actually comes in three parts to examine of revolution. What it means, they are to one, explain the causes of the revolution, done with it. Then when you look at the effects of the revolution, you realize that it comes in two parts. Some of the effects are positive, and some of the effects are what? Are negative. So for a student who has such demands, the student has to take into consideration. So it comes in three parts. But while we handle the question that has either two parts or three parts, because it is a synthesis question, there are some areas that you need to give special attention. For example, how you introduce this type of question obviously must capture the fact that you're going to address the causes and the effects of revolution, if you're answering about the revolution anyway. So you give your introduction. After giving your write what they call joinery statement, that statement that connects your introduction, the body of the essay, where you say maybe the following are the causes of the revolution. That is what we call a joinery what? A joinery statement. Or maybe you say the following are the effects of a revolution. That's a joinery statement. Then you write all the causes or all the factors that you want to deal with. Then after that, now you're going to reach a point where you write what we call a transition one. A transition where now you leave the side of the causes and then start dealing with the effects. Maybe you say had many causes, it also had many effects. At that point, there are many causes as explained where? Above. You write another statement and say, however, the very positive what? Effect. At that point, free to examine that you're going to write the effects of the revolution, but some of the effects are positive, some are what? Some are negative. So you say the revolution had so many causes, some were positive. If you want to separate them, some were positive, as explained where? Below. Then you write all the positive effects. Then when you're done with the positive effects, then you can say, however, some of maybe the negatives were effects negative as explained what? As explained what? Below. That is if your intention is to separate. However, if you do not say like in this case, you analyze. So I encourage people is that, and especially if the question is, examine the cause and effect. If you are not very good knowing, if you don't know which one is positive, which one is negative, which one is social, which one is political, it is better you just write that as they that you do not want to write something social, accidentally find yourself writing something that is maybe political. So it's all this work here, or as you write your essay, there are some simple that you can easily do it, that you can, okay, here is the one. Mm. It's already downloaded. So there are some of those simple errors that you can make that can be costly on your part if you are not sure of what to do. Now that is for these questions. You can easily, that it is easy. So when doing your exam, it's important that you make choice of one. You can make choices of those direct questions. Please make use of, you choose those ones first. Secondly, choose those synthesis questions if they are appearing in the what? In the paper. Make sure that you choose them. Then we have those questions that are called, they are all. Yes, you have not anywhere before, but somewhere they it, and then they interpret it and answer it. And if you know the interpretation, it becomes very easy. So then we have other questions that they are called, they are swaying questions, swaying in a way that the answer is not static. The answer is not very clear. Yes. For example, there was a question that they said about Russian Revolution. They said that why did the Bolsheviks take over in Russia in 1917? Why did the Bolsheviks take over in Russia in 1917? Now that is a swing question. It is taking you towards the reason why the revolution succeeded, but it also brings you sometimes back to the reasons why the revolution actually broke out. So issues to deal with. So for example, in that particular, ask people, why did the Bolsheviks take over power in Russia in 1917? So people who wrote the causes of the Russian 1917 passed the paper. I mean, passed the question. Even the people who wrote the reasons for the reasons why the revolution succeeded in Russia also passed the paper. Even the people who wrote the causes of the revolution together with the reasons why the revolution succeeded, also passed the question. So those are the issues that you need to deal with. Yes. You need to be dealing with as you do your paper. You make sure that you do not get confused along the way. So there you can see the synthesis question, some examples. Then you have this other question. I took the indirect questions that come with a lot of English, comes with a lot of terminology, like violation of the 1814 Constitution was the primary response for the collapse of the toward Bobot in France. You see, but there's a lot of English, a lot of things. So now those are the indirect questions that you sometimes fidget with the interpretation. And it's very easy to misfire this one. So we need to know which type of questions should we actually deal with. Then these ambiguous questions, ambiguous. And this is the type of question we encourage people to avoid, like this one. The restored Bobonobona learned nothing, got nothing, and they discuss. You see, it's ambiguous. Sometimes it ends up being missing. Yes. Then you have these controversial questions. I told you about these questions. Controversial sense that when you try to find two answers that you can actually use to respond to the same one, to the same question. Like that one. Why did the Bolsheviks take over power in 19 what? In 1917? Yes, that question is not very easy to interpret what is the exact answer, but I already given you the interpretation. Then we have those original questions like account for the success of the French Revolution in 1789, account for the success of the French Revolution in 1789. Not very common. Set it. They can easily set it. Students look at, while the students look at all these other types of questions, because all these types of questions will come in the paper. You may find they have set the French Revolution, they have set a simple one. The Russian Revolution, now they have set that controversial one. Then maybe the common of the other type of question. So people need to sure that in the paper you're not going to find or only hard questions. You need to is to choose the simplest question in the paper. Please choose the one that is simplest to you. All questions carry equal what? Equal marks. In the only 4 questions for you to answer. Then you get your good grade and go away. So it is not hard to pass. Some complicated. It's choice. Then it goes to kind of question that you have chosen. And we need to also understand that these questions have different time demands. There are some questions that will be shorter, especially if, and there are some questions that will be more demanding in terms of time, especially if they are questions or if they are the other high order question. For example, maybe to what extent did maybe imperialism lead to the outbreak of war? that question is not only one-sided, it has and then it has the other side where other factor. So those are about the type of question should you know about. We have a few that people should surely know about questions here. We have, for example, what must you know? There are some 3 cues here. That is the choice, the approach, and interpretation. Every question that you pick out, make sure you interpret well and you know the approach. These 3 cues passing. You've started history and perhaps you'll excel in it. I'm talking about question choice, question interpretation, and then question approach. Because if you have interpreted well, very well, and then you won't have any trouble answering the question. And we do it is important, ma'am, to read all. Example, you are reading the French Revolution. I know people like reading causes of events. If you're reading the French Revolution, please read everything, the causes, the cause, and the effects of the revolution. If you're reading maybe if you're reading Napoleon, it's important that you read the rise, his domestic and foreign policies, consolidation, and effects of his rule in Europe. To the paper, you cannot be ambushed, you cannot be out spotted. So it's very important to read the whole topic. Make sure you master those 3 cues I have talked about: question choice, question interpretation, and question approach. It is very lesson. So those 3 areas: question choice, question interpretation, and question approach. Very, very. Then, next, also people should know that an introduction is very important. An introduction is very easy to write. Very, very easy to write an introduction. So what is in the introduction? Every essay has an introduction. That introduction is simply the starting point of every essay writing. It helps to define what you're going to write about. Listen of what? Maybe it's a revision. The question is maybe like account for the average revolution. So you answer this question: what was the French Revolution? So here, as you do, you are trying to define the major concepts in the question. Please write in the past tense. For example, if you're writing about what were the causes of the French Revolution, so you expect you to write the French Revolution was. Don't write that refers to. Yes, if you say that the French Revolution refers to, you are not writing history, you are writing your own things. So you should write the French Revolution was, then you continue with your definition. You have answered that question, what? Question you're going to be answering when. So tell us the French Revolution was blah, 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 blah. It broke out on this month in this year. That answering the when. Then you're going to tell where revolution. Okay, obviously the revolution in. So we expect you to mention that in your introduction and answer the question, who? So by the time the revolution broke out, who were the major people, the major participants in the revolution? Okay, maybe you would say the revolution broke out when the French society was stratified into three classes. We had the peasants, we had the nobles, we had the clergy. You answered that question of who. Yes. So by the time you answer those simple questions of what, where, who, when, you will be giving a very good introduction. So after you have written your introduction, it means you're now ready to go and start giving a writing of the essay. But before you write the body of the essay, we expect you to write what we call the joinery one, the joinery statement, where you do the revolution broke out because of many as some people would even go ahead and revolution of many factors. Some of the factors were long-term, others were immediate. Below. Another person, some of the factors were social, others were political, others were economic, and end with end where? Below. So you have given your introduction that addresses those key areas. Action just because you've read it, book, you everything that is not relevant. So make sure your action is not so bad, but it addresses the major concerns that you're going to address in the one in the question. So that is about the introduction. I'm seeing, let me first see what's going on. Okay. I am hoping I am being heard. The quality poor. I am hoping you let me know if it has improved or I should that you hear. I don't want us to lose this session. Okay. We are here. Another thing people need to know is that's how to state the point. How to state the point. The point should be stated in a full sentence. The point can be stated in many ways. For example, you can start with the building words. For example, in this case, you say, one of the letters. In that case, you have started with the point. But the same point in this way, you could say one of the factors led to the where you have started with the building. When you start with a point, then what it is okay. With the building and with a point, it is still what? It is still okay. So your point should be in a full sentence like I have it here. Luck was responsible for the of Napoleon. Stop. Or you could say one of the factors that led to the rise of Napoleon was luck. Full stop. And after, what do you do? Then you explain it. Responsible for the Napoleon. How do you know how luck was responsible for the rise of Napoleon? Simple, by answering this question, how? So show us those and scenarios where Napoleon survived because of luck. Show us the thing he was able to obtain that was okay. Napoleon was one of the children who did not die because many of his Napoleon was able to be admitted in the military school that was only reserved for the sons and daughters of noblemen. That was also luck. Napoleon maybe robbed together with Robespierre, but Napoleon was not executed, and yet Robespierre was executed. That is also what? Luck. So by the time those examples and illustrations, with a lot of lines, maybe like 6, 7, or 8, or even 10 lines. And your point will be good enough that will give you the marks. Then people also need to know that as we write writing these pieces of writings, and there are people who are reading these pieces of writing. So we ask you to avoid monotonous language. Monotonous language be like this. I know some teachers have been nicknamed another point means the teacher is dictating another point. Another point. So you actually give us names. You say, Mr. Another Point. He said, please. For example, you could say another factor is this. Then again, another factor becomes another factor. So we expect you to fight this monotonous language. Do not bring all those languages that you people want to use. Just state your language. For example, you say, luck was one of the factors that led to the rise of Napoleon. Then you explain. Maybe that the rise of was yet a factor that simple and very plain and very easy to read. Monotonous what? Language in your essay. Then don't mix your point with the explanation by failing to stop at the end of the sentence. There are people who write their essays. Somebody writes a whole paragraph. There is no comma. There is no full stop. And you read and lose breath. So we are saying, can you write your essay in main? For example, have identified the point in a full sentence like I explained earlier. Maybe like after 2 lines, put a full stop. Then again, start another sentence, put a full stop. Write another sentence, put a full stop. So that in the end, you find that your essay is flowing. So if you mix your explanation with your point, then you're going to miss the marks for one. You may miss the identification of the point, or you may miss the marks for the explanation of the point. So we are encouraging people to identify the point in a full sentence. Because the moment you identify your point in a full sentence, you get marks. And after that, you start explaining and illustrating your point. Again, you get marks. Then you're going to your point, the question. Then you get another tick, which is for you. So people need to know that in every paragraph, we are going to tick like 3 times. Identify point in a full sentence, the explanation, and or connection between point and the essay. We are going to tick, and each time we tick, marks for you. Every time we tick, marks for you. Then people should avoid shortcuts in an essay. Shortcuts are one language like this. Example is the one of that the rise of Napoleon was luck. Then you start explaining right the words. That word, 2 words, that word as in is a shortcut. And it's not allowed in essay writing. So we don't like you write like in that, where all those are shortcuts that are not allowed in essay writing. So maybe you say Napoleon's right, luck. Then you start writing other things. Hereby, it is a penalty. We do not allow that. Don't write those shortcuts in your essay. But whereby, wherein, all those ones are not allowed. Where we don't All right. So saying don't abbreviate in your essays, and we should know how to, yes, connecting our point to the question where some people say, okay, hence this led to the rise of Napoleon, hence this led to the downfall of Napoleon, hence this led to the outbreak of the war, hence this led to this and that. Yes, that is okay. That we are looking for it very much. Some people like saying thus, others say therefore, it is fine. So we want to see in every paragraph three things. Identified point in a full sentence. I showed you how to identify the point. You can either start with a point, end with building words, or start with the building words, end with a point. Then we want the explanation. Explain in your language, please. Don't cram the language in the textbook. Explain in your own language. And then that relation between the point and the what? And the point and the question, where you say hence, therefore, thus, those ones are very important. If you do that, you're going to find yourself excelling, passing much more than you have been, perhaps. Then avoid abbreviations. I've talked about that. Know how to state a standpoint. First, it starts by you knowing what a standpoint is. Okay. When do you write a standpoint? This takes us back to interpretation. If a question is requiring a standpoint, maybe questions like how far, to what extent, says, those questions require you to give a standpoint. And your standpoint should be in measurable language. So we use statements like greater, smaller extent, bigger extent, those statements. So do not write statements like big extent. It is not clear. Big extent is not clear because big is relative. What is big to you may not necessarily be big to another person. So we need to use statements like bigger, smaller, like that. Then also we need to avoid mixing. Avoid mixing issues, mixing content between Europe, Africa, and NASH, and even other papers that you do. You see, we need to know the language that we are expected to use in Europe and the language that we are expected to use in Africa or in nationalism. So we need to not to mix those issues. Then students also should know the features of a poor essay. How does a poor essay look like? Some of them may be writing a poor essay and they're not aware. They think it is a good essay. You see? So a poor essay is that one where interpretation is poor, where the approach is not clear, where someone, if you see you're struggling, you may be writing a poor what? A poor essay. And how do we help ourselves here? We can deal with our friends who are excelling more than us. Talk to your friends who you see are doing better work or are writing better essays, or talk to your teacher. Yes, talk to your teacher. Your teacher will tell you that this essay needs to be improved like this, like this, like that. If you do that, you're going to find yourself improving your performance. And then people should also know what a journal statement is. I've talked about that. People should know what a standpoint is. I've talked about that. And then, even when we are going for the examination or for any paper, we should know what to expect. Yeah, what do we expect in the paper? We expect questions like how far, to what extent, how practical. That is a very rare way of asking, but it can be used. How did those questions assess, evaluate, analyze, examine? All those are terminologies that are used in exam or by examiners. And especially now we are going to do mocks. Yes, we need to know terminologies that can be used by the examiners. And students should know what a transition point is. Everybody, I think, is familiar to that now. Then people should know what are the common mistakes people make in essay writing that makes them lose marks. People make errors, people. People make grammatical errors. People manage time poorly. People fail to plan for their essays. People misinterpret questions. People don't explain properly. People don't analyze issues. People have bad handwritings. People present dirty work. For example, you have written a full page, and you know you can cross that work just by using one line. And then you find the other person who makes a cross, crosses it like 3 times, and your work becomes untidy. And then failure to follow failure to follow the instruction can also be another error. Or sometimes failure just to organize your work. You're writing the essay, and then somehow for you, any point that comes, you just write. We need to remind ourselves that we give marks for chronology. How your work comes out is very, very important. So as we do our work, as we write our exams, we need to remind people that those errors can be costly on your part. Everything I have said, everything that is highlighted there can be costly on your part. Yes. So we need to be very, very careful as we do our work. Make sure you do not make those errors. Then we have students need to know also that there are many types of questions. I've talked about that. Students need to know the structure of an essay. An essay is made up of these 4 parts here. Point identification, marks for you. Explanations, marks for you. The explanations are normally ticked, or we give you marks together with the examples. Then you have the analysis where you say, hence those things. All that Students need to know that that is where the marks is, by the way. And candidates needs to know how to distinguish opinions from facts. In history, we write the essay, and the essay is full of facts and opinions. Yes? We need to know what is a fact and what is an opinion. The years, names of places, names of people, those are facts. They don't change. You see, they don't change. And then opinions, these are issues that change from person to person. For example, your standpoint is your opinion. So, as we mark your paper, we do not give a lot of attention to your opinion, but we give a lot of attention to the facts. Because your opinion may be that imperialism was the major factor that led to the outbreak of the First World War. It is okay, that's the opinion. Another person may have a different opinion. But what are the facts in your essay as you write? Do you address all the facts? Then people need to know that we have to plan. Planning is what we are doing right now. What we are doing now is part of the planning. It involves you having a timetable that caters for all the papers that you do. It involves you sparing time for consultation with the teachers. It involves you attending seminars like this. It involves you doing your summaries. By this time, you should be having a book where you do all your summaries. It involves you having question bank. It involves you trying out questions and give the teacher to mark. It involves you looking out for mock papers of last year so that you get to see what your friends did last year. It involves you, when you enter into the paper, first of all, making a rough sketch of your answers, how you're going to answer. So when you talk about planning, it doesn't start in the exam room. Planning starts now. Planning is you reading history with a purpose and knowing what to do when you enter into the paper. So when you get into the paper, they are going to give you answer sheets the school provides. Please use the first page of that answer sheet to plan. If they're giving you papers, use one paper for planning. Write your bullet points. It will guide you. It will save you time as you answer the essay. Even when you go into your name, it is allowed. Please plan. Use the first page to plan. And after planning, don't cross. I tell people don't cross. I know some teachers will tell you, okay, cross. Why am I saying don't cross? Because if you cross, indirectly you're telling the person who's reading your essay that don't look there. Yes, but if you don't cross, we shall look in both, here and in the essay, here and in the essay. So make sure you write the plan and leave it there. It doesn't hurt. Just write the plan and leave it there. Then students need to know that instructions are very, very important. Why am I emphasizing this? The first instruction is answer 4 questions. And then we have students who are going to answer 3. And you wonder if they read the instruction. I know they are going to say, we were caught up by time. Fine. We are saying prepare now, so you answer only 4. If you answer 5, it is a rubric. If you answer 3, it is a rubric. So everybody is given equal time, 45 minutes per question, 3 hours for 4 questions. Use that time well to answer your 4 questions. If you do that, you're going to make your life very, very easy. You're going to excel in the paper. Yes. Now, I want to give a few minutes for questions. People ask questions. I'm seeing some hands are up. Some questions, I'm going to answer them. I'm going to answer some questions. I am seeing somebody saying, we are not hearing you. St. Francis, Namagoma. I'm not seeing the questions, people. I want people to ask questions. Can someone ask? There's someone from Pakada Seed. I think I will. Can you ask the question?
Thank you very much, my dear facilitator, for today's discussion. Yeah, my question goes like this. You have been giving us some ways of doing things in history. And now my question is like, now as you have given us a way or tips how we are supposed to answer questions, are there some questions that you're going to pose that we discuss, and then you give us you give us time also to explain it to the others?
Just a minute, I'm going to get back to you. Okay, please ask again. I have not heard your question properly. I did hear your question. Please ask again. Okay, let me first get someone from St. Leonard SS. Please, you can ask your question. St. Leonard, ask. Yes? St. Leonard, I'm not hearing you. Okay, someone from St. Leonard. St. Leonard, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Facilitator. My concern is all about how do you award the marks, because sometimes writing many points is a bit consuming.
Right, future? Right, ask.
Ask them to raise their Okay. So someone is saying you're not audible. Someone is asking me, okay, how many points are we expected to write? How many points should we write? I want to say that the number of points is dictated by the marking guide prepared by the examiner. So you as student, you cannot tell how many points you can write, but please write all the points that the teachers gave you. When I was a student like you, I used to count points. Reasons for the delay, the unification of Italy, they are 16. So if I've not written 16, I know I've not written 4. So that question of how many points you should write, please write as many as you can. Then the examiner will gauge or will mark. Your job is simple, to write the point, not to mark. So do your part, write the points, and write as many as you can. If they're excess, better for you. If they are few, that's when you make errors. Make sure all the points have been explained exhaustively. In that way, you're going to find yourself performing better. Then someone is saying that Britain's fear of Russia's expansionist policy made her risk fighting the Crimean War. Discuss. Yeah, we are going to, in the next session, we are going to answer a question like that. That is the Crimean War. We are going to see how Britain got involved, how Russia got involved, how all the other powers got involved. There's a question on the Eastern question that is coming. Don't worry. Then how many marks does a point get? How many marks do we get in every point? That question also cannot be answered because we mark the essay as a whole. There is nobody who can lie to you that every point has 2 marks, every point has 3 marks. No. Instead, we have a grading scale where we know that a poor essay is between this range to this range. A bad essay is between this range to this range. A good essay is between this range to this range. So there is no specific mark that is given to every point. All you need to do is to write an essay that impresses you. Remember, the marking here is done by impression. That is 1. 2, the essay is marked as a whole. So we don't break the essay and say the introduction is then same. Explain more about question terminologies. Question terminologies. Now it's going to take us back to the types of questions. Maybe just briefly, I could say that if you see how far, automatically that is two-sided. To what extent it is also two-sided. Assess here means that you look at the good side and then the other side. But I'm going to give you other questions and their interpretations. Someone is saying approach to questions of assess. Is it having a standpoint? Yes. If, for example, they tell you assess the achievements of the Congress system, it means it is two-sided and it needs a standing point. Someone is saying St. Joseph SS Kigando, how many points should one write to get? Please, this question is bothering students for nothing. Write all the points you know. Don't limit yourself. Don't leave out other points. Why I can't answer this question straight away is because the marking guide can be adjusted. I may have my marking guide that has 25 points. And then for you, you write your essay that has maybe 17 points. So I will mark you basing on my marking guide. So there is no specific number of points that you should write. Make sure you have written as many as you know. Someone saying that which words can students use to join a point to the explanation? Sis. Which words can a student use to join explanation, since you restricted the use of words, for example, as in, whereby in is an C. Vibrate, that is not in English. So what I'm saying is, if you are writing plain English, not your English that you which is not allowed in writing. Write your essay in plain English. Example, I gave an example. I said that luck was one of the factors that led to the rise of Napoleon. Full stop. Now, after putting a full stop, tell me, where are you going to write that word of yours as in? If you're preparing to write as in, whereby it means you are not, you're the kind of person who doesn't put a full stop. and that is not correct. Make sure you put a full stop at the end of the sentence. You will not even think about that word of as in, whereby, those words. So write your essay without using those words that connect. There is no reason why you should connect your point direct to your explanation. That's what I say, that if you do that, you miss marks for one. You're either going to miss marks for the identification of the point, or you're going to miss marks for the explanation, because the two are mixed up. So avoid those words, because they make you make errors where you connect the explanation with the what? With the point, and you lose marks. So don't even go there. That is not proper. So I'm saying that one way you can avoid using those words, put a full stop at the end of your sentence. Then you will not even think about it. Then someone is saying, should we stop using in the way that in our essay while explaining? I think in the way that you are trying to, it's not connected to the other one, as in, whereby, those ones. But if you have really read your content, and unless English is somehow a bit of a problem, but you should not be struggling with looking for words to use in writing the essay if you've been reading. So let us not go into that direction of English. Me now teaching people the English. Me, I am dealing with the structure of essay writing. The part of English, let us not concentrate there. Then do I have to write all the 25 points in order to get 25 marks? I am saying no. You don't have to write the 25 points if they are not there. But if the 25 points are there, then you have to write them. Especially if the 25 points appear in the examiner's marking guide, then you must write them. So here, sometimes you find the question has few points. Sometimes the question has many points, depending on how the question has been said. For example, if they have asked you to account for the outbreak of the French Revolution, few points. And then if they ask you, examine the causes and effects of the French Revolution, many points. You see? So sometimes you may find that the questions demand different number of points depending on how the question has been has been said. Then someone is saying that, what if I write 12 points well explained? Can I get 25 marks? Yes, you can get 25 marks if in the examiner's marking guide there are also 12 points. And if you have met all the criteria of a good essay in every paragraph, you can get the 25 marks. Then how long should one spend on each number? 45 minutes. That is the given time. If you don't give your answer in a chronological format, the essay will not be marked. It will be marked. It will be marked. But we are saying you are not going to be as good as the person who has given their points in a chronological way. Everybody will be marked. But everybody will not get the same mark based on how they have responded to the question. Yes. Then someone is saying, what if I write less than 25? Is there a penalty? If you've written few points and the question demands many points, it means we shall find where to place you. We can place you under very poor essay. We can place you under poor essay. We can place you under O-level essay or just to the point essay. That's about 12 marks. We can also place you under fairly good essay. That is between 12 and around 15 marks. Then we can also place you under a good essay that is between 15 to 18 marks. Or we can also place you under very good essay. That is now between 18 to 20, 22. That is a very good essay. Or if you have excelled, we can place you under 22 to 25. That is now a very good, excellent essay. So everybody is going to be given marks basing on their response and basing on what they have written in their essay. So everyone is marked. Then more clarification about a standpoint. A standpoint, we said, is your opinion about something that is on the table. I like giving this example where you are going to find that the standpoint is something that changes. Imagine we have a girl, and this girl, when she studied and she reached senior 3, when she reached senior 3, and money disappeared. There was no money for further studies. So she stayed home for 1 year. She got a boyfriend, and the boyfriend accepted to pay for her school fees. And she studied and finished school with the help of the boyfriend. And then on the day of graduation, the boyfriend has been invited because he paid the girl's school fees. And then the parents are also there with other guests. So the girl is supposed to give a speech. And now the question is, in your opinion, who should the girl thank more? Should this girl thank the parents more for giving her birth to her? Or this girl should thank the boyfriend more because the boyfriend made her finish school? You see? You're going to find that different people are going to have different opinions there. Some will say the parents contributed more. Some will say the boyfriend contributed more. So we are asking you in every standpoint, or when you're giving your standpoint, can you give us which side weighs more by using the word bigger, smaller? You see, bigger, smaller, maybe greater, that language. So make sure that as you write your standpoint, you use only those words, bigger, smaller, greater, like that. So that is what you do when you're writing your standpoint. I hope that question about the standpoint had been clarified as you asked. Then, how do we conclude? Two-sided questions. There are many ways of concluding. And I said a concluding is that point when you say goodbye to the person who's reading your essay. And there are many ways of saying goodbye. Some people say goodbye by just a smile. Others say goodbye by waving. Others say goodbye by giving a hug. Others say goodbye and again come back and say goodbye for the second time. So when you are concluding a two-sided question, it's important that your conclusion captures issues that have been discussed in both the two sections of the question. Imagine, for example, the question was this one. How far was imperialism responsible for the outbreak of World War I? And then you're concluding now. Remember, you gave a standpoint earlier. So you're going to say, World War I was caused by imperialism to a smaller extent, as explained above. However, there are also other factors that caused the war, as also explained well above. You see, very simple. In a few lines, you have given a conclusion. But I always tell people that a conclusion is given in general words. Imagine you are answering a question like this. Account for the outbreak of the French Revolution. It would be okay for you to say, in your conclusion, you say that the causes of the French Revolution were many. Were they not many? There were many. Some of the causes were social, others were political, others were economic. Others were long-term, others were immediate, the causes. And then you find in just a few lines, like maybe 3 or 4 lines, you have concluded. In simple, general words, you have concluded. Yes. All right. So I am trying to read through the charts to see. We don't know. Let him tell us. Okay, I don't know what you're asking for. How many marks that an introduction carries? We mark the whole essay. We don't reward the introduction and the different paragraphs independently. How do we conclude questions with the to what extent? I've just given an example. Then what if I give a direct, precise answer and a student still get 3 marks? Direct, precise answer, I'm hoping you are not saying you just list or you just don't explain. Because if you don't explain, we don't give you marks for the explanation. Remember, explanations we give marks for. Then facilitator, there is a lot of echo. There's a lot of echo. Should I move away from here? Then is it necessary to all two-sided questions require a standpoint? No, sometimes not. If the synthesis question, for example, if they ask you like this, examine the causes and effects of the French Revolution. Now, in that case, there's no standpoint, but the question is two-sided. So it is not automatic that all two-sided questions demand a standpoint. How do we approach questions like how? How practical is like how far? Yes. So it is two-sided. It is a very rare way of asking questions. Please don't bother yourself. Enlighten me more on why did the Bolsheviks take over power? I said that this question is a swaying question. It demands the causes of the Russian Revolution, plus the causes of, plus the factors that led to the success of the Russian Revolution. If you wrote only one side, you would get marks, but not all the marks. If you wrote only the factors that led to the success, still you would get marks, but not all. If you combine both, you would get all the marks. When shall we have a discussion in the same paper again? We are going to have more facilitation members. We have WhatsApp groups where we always share a lot of information. Maybe the next time I can assure you when we are going to have a discussion on this same paper during holiday. Yes, during holidays, we usually have facilitations that happen during holiday. So we have another opportunity during holiday. I'm going to be available teaching online. And then in third term, we are going to have some 1 or 2 more facilitations in the third term. Then what are you predicting this year? And your next question. I don't have anything I'm predicting. I don't know what is going to come. That's why we are looking at the whole paper. But please read. If you have any specific questions, maybe you can ask me in the WhatsApp, on my WhatsApp. I can just give you sample mock papers, sample those papers that have been done long time ago, maybe last year or in other schools around, I have got. But I don't have any idea what is coming this year. Yes. How can we approach a question with evaluate? Please don't bother yourself there. But anyway, evaluate is like assess. Evaluate is like assess, but it is a very rare way of asking questions. Evaluate means look at the positive side and bring the negative side. That is evaluating. Actually, it is another level of asking. Evaluation question, that is like how far, those questions, those are evaluation. Then should candidates weigh 2 sides in case a question is double-sided? You only weigh 2 sides if the question demands so. Not always. How can I approach questions that need failures and achievements? And how many points should each be? If the question is, for example, let me just give an example of this question. assess the achievements of the Vienna settlement. Yes, obviously you start with the achievements. Then you bring in the what? The failures. However, if they ask you to start with the failures, then you don't start with the achievement. You see? For example, if you ask you a question like this, the Vienna settlement was bound to fail, discuss. Automatically, the question is demanding you to start with the what? With the failures. So start with the achievement if the question is demanding you to start those achievements. Yes. Yes, my class is yes, just a minute. Where's that? But normally by that time, I'm still here, but let me give you a question. So this is the okay, someone is also asking, the question is many. I was not even see a mention. Use the student. So someone is asking, do we need to give a standpoint on a one-sided question? No. Standpoints are given on two-sided questions. How do you approach a question like Napoleon's rise to power was due to circumstances beyond his own making? Hey. Okay. Now this one here, Napoleon's rise was due to circumstances beyond his own making. In other words, they are asking to look at the factors that led to the rise of Napoleon, but we separate the factors that Napoleon had something to do with, and then we bring other factors. For example, Napoleon, one of the factors that led to the rise of Napoleon was luck. Did Napoleon make himself lucky? No, he was born lucky. So that one is beyond his control. We say another factor was because of Napoleon's ambition. Did Napoleon make himself ambitious? No, he was born ambitious. So that is on the other side. But there are things that Napoleon did. So those are the things that you start with in this, where they say that Napoleon's rise was due to circumstances beyond his own making. So deal with those factors where Napoleon had nothing to do. Then you put other factors. How many lines should a point, should an introduction be comprised of? An introduction, let it address those key issues. I gave you the different questions that an introduction should address. What, where, when, who. So you may find yourself having an introduction like maybe between 3 to 6 lines. But of course, it also depends on your language. People have polished vocabulary, they need to write fewer words to mean a lot. So just make sure your introduction is not so bulky so that it bothers the examiner or wastes your time. Yes. I always tell people that an introduction is like a mini skirt that covers the important parts, but also attracts the onlooker. So make sure that your introduction is not just something that is full of irrelevancies. And by the way, the introduction depends on the question or on the person asking the question. Let me ask you, for example, imagine I am teacher Okello, and I meet you and I ask you, tell me briefly about yourself. I am a teacher. So what are you supposed to tell me? Obviously, you're supposed to tell me your academic background. You're supposed to tell me, you see, my combination is this, and my former school is this. That's what I'm interested in because I'm a teacher. But if the same question is asked and he's a doctor, you go to the hospital and the doctor asks you, tell me briefly about yourself. Obviously, the doctor expects you to give him your medical what? history. We don't have to tell the doctor when you were born, when you are this and that. With the school you go to, the doctor is interested in knowing when was the last time you felt sick? What was the sickness? Where were you treated? So you get. So you find that the introduction depends on the question. Why am I emphasizing this? Because some people think that every time they ask them, for example, about Napoleon, they should start from when Napoleon was born, his mother, his brothers, his everything, as if that is important for that question. So make sure you first of all understand the question, depending on who is asking, depending on what the question is demanding. So not every time they ask you about the French Revolution, you should give us that introduction you have rammed. Learn to customize the introduction basing on the question that has been asked. Then here questions. How do you approach a question with the primarily? This is for Moringi essays. Primarily, it's like the standpoint has been dictated. But I want to say that a standpoint, people, is your opinion, and nobody penalizes you for writing a different opinion from the other people. So even if they say primarily, and for you, you think it is not, please give your opinion. If a standpoint is required, the only thing we will look out for is, have you written the standpoint? So nobody should dictate for you your standpoint. Write your standpoint the way you feel it should be written. Then how do you approach a question with primarily? I'll answer that one. I would like to clarify for me on a question asking for causes and effects, whether to take a standpoint on the effects, discuss the causes and effects of the War of Independence. Okay, I think you wanted to say that discuss the causes of the Greek War of Independence. Discuss the causes of the Greek War of Independence. Fine. Of course, you're going to give us the introduction of the Greek War of Independence and go through the causes of the Greek War of Independence. And then you give us the effects of the Greek War of Independence. Now, this is going to depend on how the question has been asked. For example, if they ask you to examine the causes and effects of the Greek War of Independence, in which case we don't even expect you to separate the effects of the Greek War of Independence. There is no need for a standpoint. However, if they gave you a question like this one here, the Crimean War was the most useless and wasteful war ever fought on European soil. Now, they are asking you to give a standpoint. So in this case, if the question is just maybe to examine, or maybe they ask you, discuss the causes and effects of the Greek War of Independence, there's no standpoint required, you see? But if maybe a statement has been put like, the Crimean War was the most wasteful war ever fought in European soil, in quotes, discuss. Now there a standpoint is what? Is required. So members, I don't want us to complicate life so much by trying to look out for very difficult questions as if those are the questions that are going to come. You're going to find simple questions in the paper, okay? In fact, it is rare to find that a paper has been set and it has only those high order questions, not more than 5 of them, that assess, evaluate, assess how far, to what extent, not more than 5 in the paper, because those are high order questions that give students a lot of time. How many lines? I answered that. Then, is there a penalty on not concluding? Yes, there is a penalty for not concluding. If you ask, every question must be concluded. Like I said, when you go somewhere, people welcome you. And therefore, when you're also leaving, people expect you to say goodbye. So when you are not concluding, it means you're escaping. So please don't run away without concluding. Right? The introduction should be there. The conclusion should also be there. There is a reward for concluding, in other words. Can you please help us and drop your WhatsApp number? I will give you my WhatsApp number, don't worry. We need your WhatsApp number, I'll give you. I think you are the first data. I'm very convinced. Without you, I have said, may the good Lord bless you. Thank you. Thank you for the facilitation. I'm very convinced without you. How can we answer the League of Nations was bound to fail? Okay, we all know the League was formed in 1920, January 1920, and it was an outcome of the Versailles Peace Treaty. And from the onset, the League, one could foresee that the League would not stand. So if they are saying the League was bound to fail, they're telling us that show us what by 1920 or in the early years of the formation of the League was a sign that the League was not going to last for so long. For example, if you consider that fact that the idea of the League was suggested by USA, and USA did not even join. What does that imply? That the League would not stand for too long. If you also look at the fact that the League was a follow-up of the unfortunate Versailles Peace Treaty, and the Versailles Peace Treaty with all its unpopularity, that also may be a ground for us to believe that the League would not stand. So look out for those areas that, those pillars that should have made the League to stand for so long, that according to you were weak. Look out for the weak pillars of the League of Nations and write an essay about it. Then I say that another one, sir, thanks. What of the bound question is, how do you attempt it? That one is not clear. I really wish I had, I got the question very well, but I have not got it clearly. How can I get 6 points in history? 6 only. I think you should write, or you're saying, how can you get an A? I think that's what you mean. You can get an A if you score a distinction in both papers. If you score a D1 and a D2, you get an A. A D1, you get an A. A D2, you get an A. So the whole idea is getting 2 distinctions in both papers. We request your WhatsApp number. I'm going to give you. The Bolshevik Revolution was bound to break out, discuss. These are the causes of the Russian Revolution. In other words, the Bolshevik Revolution it's obvious it was going to break out. In other words, explain the causes of the Russian Revolution. Very simple. Yes, someone had already answered it. Can a whole question approach be applied in all history papers? 1 to 6. Please stick to paper 3. This is what I'm telling you in paper 3. Ask when the facilitation for paper 6 comes, please ask the question that you want to ask. I said don't mix ideas. Paper 3, I teach paper 3, I mark paper 3. I don't want to interpret paper 6 in paper 3. All right? Can they set Otto von Bismarck in your name? Yes, it has come before. Then some guys, can you mute? Okay, what is required in an introduction? I've answered. I think most of the questions I have answered then. Now, let us go to the last segment of our facilitation today. Let us go dive direct deep here. I'm seeing Nyakarika, someone. Please, if you have a question, please type it in the chats. I will follow it up there so that we remain orderly. So this is our next segment of the facilitation, people. So we are here. The first question is for today. I set out questions for you. but we have spent a lot of time on the questions that you were asking me. So let us go to this first question here that you need to answer. Account for its European stability against France between 1792 to 1814. In other words, why was France at war with the rest of Europe? That question can be said. It is from the French Revolution. And maybe before we dive into here, people, I need to tell you before our time runs out that as we set the paper, we set this paper thematically. Thematically meaning that we are going to have revolutions. I think people should write this down. Revolutions, we have 4 revolutions, I think. The French Revolution of 1789. Then obviously we have the 1830 and 1848 revolutions. And then we have the Russian Revolution of 1917. Those are 4 revolutions. There is going to be a question about revolutions. So make sure as you read, make sure you have ideas about those 4 revolutions, because a question obviously must come. And you know that revolutions are very easy to understand. The causes, the cause, the reason for the success of those revolutions, or where they fail, the reasons for their failure. Also, be reminded that as the paper is being set, we are going to have questions around peace settlements and peace bodies. And I hope people know the difference between peace settlements and peace what? Peace bodies. So we have peace settlements like the Vienna settlement. That was a settlement, a peace settlement. Then obviously we have the Versailles peace settlement. That was also another settlement. Yes? Those are the 2 popular ones. And then you have peace what? Peace bodies. Peace bodies, we have the Congress system is a peace body. And then we have the League of Nations, a peace body. Then we have the Congress system, the League of Nations, then have the United Nations Organization, another peace body. So we need to be reminded that there are questions that are going to come around peace bodies. That is Vienna. Then, peace bodies and the settlements. That is Vienna, the Congress system, the League of Nations, and the United Nations Organization. There is going to be a question around them. Make sure as you read, you don't ignore or forget those areas. And then we have the unifications, 2 of them. We have only the Italian and the German unification. But remember, as you read the unifications are broad. The Italian unification, we have the reasons for the delay, reasons for the success, and then you have the roles of the different countries, the roles of the personalities. Some people call them Italian patriots. You see, all that. That is under the unification. Make sure as you read, you don't ignore any part of the unification. Then under German unification, of course, you have reasons for the delay, reasons for the success of the unification. Then we have the different wars that were fought until the unifications were achieved, the role of the different countries in the unification of Germany, and then you have the roles of the different personalities in the unification of Germany. Yes, all that is under the unification of Germany. Now, sometimes they may not set for you the easier part where they ask you, account for the delay, account for the success, or factors that favored any of the unification. But they can bring for you one of the wars, like the Franco-Prussian War, or any other war that was fought. Or sometimes they can bring for you a question that now demands a lot of knowledge about the unification. For example, during this smokes time, I suspect you're going to have questions like this. How far was the unification of Germany achieved through military means? See, now they're asking you for the means, they're not asking you for the factors. So make sure that even as you read, you expose yourself to those approaches of those questions. Look at the different mocks. People who are within here, I expect you by this time, you should have looked at the different papers set by Wakisha, different papers set by UNASE, different papers set by JEB, different papers set by different examination bodies, and different papers that were done in the previous years by the schools that you consider prominent. Yes, that is how you can be aggressive to look for information. So it's very, very important that we get to know. So I have talked about unifications, peace bodies, and settlements. I've talked about the revolutions. Those are 3 areas that people need to give special attention. Then you are going to find questions about wars. There are many wars that were fought in Europe before. We have the Greek War of Independence. We have the Franco-Prussian War. We have the World War I, World War II. We have the Cold War. So there is going to be a question about a war. Maybe the causes, maybe the cause, maybe the effects of the war. So make sure as you read, don't ignore wars. They are going to come. There will be at least one question for you around what? Around wars. And those are all simple areas that you should not ignore. You see, then we are going to have questions about dictators. So we have Benito, yes? We have, sorry, Mussolini. We have Benito. We have Benito Mussolini, Adolf Hitler. Yes. So make sure as you do, someone's calling. Which one? Use line. Make sure as you do your reading, you categorize your reading in those themes. And the last one is the personalities. I know there are so many of those personalities. We have Napoleon, we have Metternich, we have over 10 personalities. Now, it's important to note that there are going to be questions about personalities, but personalities are so many. I am not saying you should ignore personalities, but we should know what is said around these personalities. Of course, they set factors for their rise. They set for their policies. Yes. They set their policies, both domestic and foreign, where we're going to find their achievements and failures when you're analyzing their policies. So it's very important for us to know that in a paper where you're going to find 10 questions, we are not going to set from every topic, but we are going to pick out questions from all those themes and set at least 1 or 2 from each. You see? Maybe from revolutions, we can set like 1 or 2 questions. From unifications, we can just set 1. From peace bodies and settlements, we can set like 2. From wars, we can also set like 2. Yes. So in the end, we come up with our 10 questions that gives the paper proper balance, that makes the paper complete, and therefore it's very important for us to get to know that. Then also, as you do the paper, or as you go into the paper, you're going to realize that these questions or this paper is said chronologically. And now some people will say that, oh, first question must be from the French Revolution. You can be wrong. In 2009, the first question was Metternich. You know, topic number what Metternich is. So make sure that as you do your reading, you don't say, I am going to read the first 10 topics, then I will get my 4 questions. It's very important for you to know that you can get your 4 questions from World War up to the end. And now that's why I want to encourage people that questions that come after World War usually start from around number 6. And these questions are usually very direct. And these topics are usually short topics. So even as we do our reading, let us make sure that we capitalize on these short topics. Like the first First World War, very simple. The Versailles, very simple. Russian Revolution, very simple. You can actually read all those three in one day. And then I want also to guide people on how you can relate some topics, how you can make your reading so easy by reading topics that follow each other. For example, if you're reading about the Vienna settlement, the personality behind the Vienna settlement was Metternich. The personality behind the Congress system was Metternich. So we have, if you read the Vienna settlement, understand it so well, and then you read the Congress system, understand it so well, you're going to find that Metternich is flowing naturally because it is about him every time. You see? So make sure that as you do your reading, you know how to also arrange the topics and know which one should come after which one as you do your reading. And the language that you use. I am hoping by this time everybody knows that when you're discussing the Vienna settlement, the language is restore. The Vienna settlement, restore the peace. The Vienna settlement, restore the balance of power. The Vienna settlement, restore this. Whereas when you're discussing the Congress system, the language is maintained, preserved. So you can say the Vienna settlement preserved this. I mean, the Congress system preserved this. The Vienna settlement preserved this and that. Now, people who are asking for my number, I have only 4 minutes left. You can write my number or I can put it here for you in the chat. Let me write it here in the chat very fast. So my number is here, 0772 199377. Or you can also get me on this number. You can also find me on this number here, 0704 141763. All those two numbers are on WhatsApp. Anytime you can send me a message and I will respond. Yes, I will respond. Then there are some questions here. I want to answer them. We have only 5 minutes left. Blank screen. What is blank, people? Are you sure you're not seeing what I'm sharing? Okay. Your screen is off. Is it still off? Let me know in the chat here. Oh, my name, I'm called Teacher Okello. Teacher Okello. I am teaching here in Taiba International School in Entebbe. That's where I work. Yes. So wisdom is flowing seriously. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to share this document here that I'm using with one of you. The first person to contact me, I'm going to share the document with. And I'm hoping if I share, it is going to reach everyone. Meanwhile, you know that this session is recorded. It will be shared on our YouTube channel and everything will be accessible to you. I look forward to meeting with you and interacting with you. And obviously, I want all of you to pass. I know all of you are going to excel. After this session, everybody should be in position to pass. So if you have any question that you think is, you still want some more clarification, you can get into my inbox and I will respond. Yes. People were asking for my second name. Is that very important? So that is my name. Both names are there. That is my name. I see some people in schools where I have been before, but let us hold it here. Let us finish this business here. And if you have any query, please feel free to come to my inbox. I will respond. I'm seeing a raised hand, BFA raised hand. If you have anything you want from me that you have not been able to share here, I can still share with you. They have a lot of question papers, a lot of marking guides, a lot of recorded lessons, a lot of things that I want to share with people. And I want all of you to excel. So when you get to my inbox, I will surely give you what you have asked for. I will give you the UNEP papers if you come to my inbox. I will share with you some UNEP papers, the one that I have. But UNEP papers, you can buy a question bank. Just look into the question bank, you'll find the UNEP papers there. Maybe what you should be asking for are the mock papers. Mock papers I can share with you. So we are going to still meet, I am sure. We shall meet. So have a good evening. I wish you had more time, but I know we are still going to continue interacting. Have a good evening, everybody. It has been nice teaching you. Members, our session has ended. We shall meet another time. Have a good evening. Yes, va bene. Denis.
Hello, Church City. India. Internet. Oh, that's nice.
How's life?
Tough.
Huh?
I just wanted clarity about reports. I don't want to sit entering marks, and I'm told marks are not there.
Are we putting marks or we are putting, as if I had it during the meeting that
In the meeting, they said
we don't put.
that we just have our marks.
Hey.
Yeah?
That's also what I had in the meeting.
And I'm also checking my Phoenix class, people
Yeah.
have not put marks up to now.
Yes.
And I don't want, remember people were respecting even this test thing. And you know, the moment they thought was that no marks, even those who were marking very fast, relax, they're like,
And me, I have my paper.
even my relax, I said, yes.
Stop tonight.
If they want marks, my S4 is Friday.
Yeah.
I can mark a few per day.
Nice.
Sounded clarity. But even just even told me they are still discussing that some top people don't want marks. Yeah, I think that was true.
Yes. They said we should have our marks.
Yes.
And we just put those 2, 3, 2, 3, say that the marks is in your record.
Yeah.
And then if someone you're talking, you have your backup.
But they have designed senior 4. They have made many things in action. I think S1, since I teach S1, we are feeling about 4 things for effort.
Yes.
But for S4, we are feeling it 2 things for effort.
Effort.
One effort, one score. So I don't want to sit entering marks. And then
We have not yet reached senior 4, so in fact, I'm just going to sit and start feeling.
Samuel? Samuel Collins? Samuel Collins? Samuel Collins?